Hey, there's a new RoboCop game coming out, and I feel like I'm the only person that cares. That's fine, but still, I'm pretty pumped for the potential behind this one, and I wanted to talk about it, especially after an interesting week of news. There was one other big thing announced on the same day by Nintendo. But we also got a RoboCop announcement that kind of flew under the radar. RoboCop Rogue City has been announced, and it's been a long time since we've had RoboCop anything, and it's really been a long time since we've had a RoboCop video game. Full disclosure, of course, because I know people are going to comment it. Yes, this game could be terrible. It could be a disaster. But for now, I think the potential is fun to dive into. RoboCop has had an interesting past with video games. They've tried. You know, the original RoboCop game was one of the first games I remember playing for the NES in the early 90s. Then, of course, there was RoboCop versus Terminator, which, like, I still think that's like a miracle that game even happened. But then after that, it was just kind of... There was like a first-person game in RoboCop 2003, I believe, which I thought at the time was kind of cool because I was just happy to be playing as RoboCop, but otherwise it's not super memorable. But now we're having something that I think is potentially good for a reason, and that specifically is the developer. But there's some caveats. I mean, so it's Teyon. That's the name of the development studio. Most recently, they're behind Terminator Resistance, which... you either love or you don't know anything about, or you wrote it off as, like, you know, some mid-tier developer trash. But it certainly isn't. Now, you have to have a tolerance for non-AAA games. Terminator Resistance was rough around the edges. And, to Teyon's credit, they also previously made... oh, God, Rambo the video game, which was, like, one of the worst things I've ever seen. But, hey, they turned it around with Resistance. And like I said, while it's got some jank to it, and it's definitely not perfect, and it's not like this top-tier experience, there's something important in there, and it's the fact that it felt like it understood why Terminator fans really like Terminator, and it managed to kind of nail some of that feel and some of that magic, or at least try and go for it. I actually think that the game's representation of the Terminator future was better than any representation of that future we got after Terminator 1 and 2, which is pretty huge. It understood the plasma rifles. It understood, like, hiding from the Terminator models. The fact that people were paranoid about the infiltrators coming in. You know, you have these bases. You have the desperation there. The night battles, the hunter-killers and everything. Like, it was there. While the gameplay wasn't perfect, it understood the vibe and it understood the tone at least most of the way. And I think that's super key for RoboCop, because RoboCop is really special to me. I absolutely love RoboCop. If you've been watching my shit for a long time, you know how much I like the original RoboCop movie. And part of the reason is because it's more than meets the eye. Speaking of cool robots, but, like, seriously, RoboCop was really special because it walked this perfect line of being cool 80s awesome ridiculous action, that gritty violence, and also some satire, and it played fun with a lot of things, and it was the right amount of corny, and it was the right amount of ironic or sarcastic. Again, it's like satire to the whole thing. RoboCop wasn't just cool robot cop takes down criminals and is cool. It's also a look at humanity. It's kind of like a spin and making fun of consumerism and capitalism, even to a degree. It's kind of like a weird alternative look at some of the excesses of the 1980s. There's really a lot to it that was just so charming and so unique that the second movie kind of had, and then the third movie we don't talk about. So I think the possibility with this game is that if they embrace some of that, if they embrace that satire, and if they also embrace those, like, Verhoeven kind of sharper, smarter themes about, like, machine and humanity, and the themes with, like, RoboCop, or rather, I mean, technically Alex Murphy, gripping and battling with that stuff, that could be cool. And it almost kind of leads me to believe they're going to go for it. So the press release, and specifically the Steam listing here, it specifically states, you will fight forces seeking to destroy the city you call home in an all-new first-person explosive hunt for the truth. You have the power to decide how to fulfill Prime directives in your own way. But as the story unfolds, proceed with caution, because corruption and greed knows no limits. On Steam, the listing, by the way, and it's going to be released for, like, all the platforms, but I'm just looking at the Steam listing, is marked as choices matter and story rich, which is not something that you'd immediately expect from a RoboCop game, but I think that's what a RoboCop game needs. Especially couple that with it being in first person, which to some people might immediately sound like a disappointment, right? You want to see the RoboCop model. You want to see how awesome he looks and chunking around, of course. But on the other hand, seeing in that RoboCop vision, some of the most important parts of the original RoboCop film were shown through his eyes. You see some of the wariness of his decisions. You see his decisions being fed to him, the prime directives, of course. You see the flashbacks with his family through his eyes. So it would be really cool if the game incorporated making the decisions and kind of the feel of RoboCop's gripping with the kind of the nuances of life, the gray area where on the one hand he's a robot and it's black and white, and where he's also having some humanity where it's not. If that could really somehow be captured in game form, I'm not a game developer, I don't know. I would love to see that. And considering their previous game, Terminator Resistance, did have some interesting story beats and some characters that were actually kind of interesting at points, and it tried things. It leads me to believe that this is probably one of the better case scenarios for a RoboCop game. I mean, especially if you think about the fact that RoboCop's pretty much dead. Like, I hate to say it. Like, there's always going to be a remake or a reboot or something like that. But as of right now, there's not too much going on. So, you know, the RoboCop brand isn't going to be able to go to a big AAA heavyweight and have a big, incredible cinematic game probably be made. So next best thing is like a AA, you know, sort of thing. And this Teyon developer, Nacon published deal, it's probably the best we're going to get. Other than that, we only have a couple of screenshots. We get to see Detroit, the old city specifically. We get to see what looks like almost like illegal organ harvesting dudes. And we also get to see what seems to me like the iconic factory from the climax of the original movie, which is super dope. We also get to see OCP with, you know, Alex himself walking in. I don't know, like it's very, very early, and that's also something I definitely want to reiterate, is that this game is slated for 2023, which, to be totally honest, is refreshing. If they have the money or if they have the funding and the backing, maybe partially from MGM, to work on this for that long, so be it. Awesome. Take your time. I always believe that about games, and for something like RoboCop, a property that I love very much, I think it needs the baby gloves. I think it needs the time. And at the end of the day, if it turns out to just be a dumb first-person shooter that doesn't tackle with the Paul Verhoeven nuances or anything like that, at the very least, RoboCop is cool. And I talk about the satire, I talk about like some of the deeper themes, but also at the end of the day, I don't know if this is like an unpopular opinion, but I also think that sometimes RoboCop, even when he sucks, he's cool. Like, sucks, I mean like RoboCop 3 or like some of the RoboCop TV stuff. Some of it was good, but like some of the animated stuff, obviously some of the video games, but even when they don't really understand it, he's a cool robot with a cool gun. I like that stuff. I also just wonder if it's going to be like certain specific scenes in the movie where it's almost like RoboCop in his squad car driving around looking for trouble. You know, like it mentions cleaning up the streets of old Detroit. You know, I wonder if that means like literally driving around scanning for crime. Could they nail something like that? I don't know, but I'd like to see it. There is potential with modern game design and tools. It doesn't have to be just like a dumb FPS. And that's really it. Again, it's early to go on, but like I actually like these early announcements sometimes just because it's fun to fill in the blanks and talk about like what we would like to see. And this is what I would like to see. Obviously here, I just love talking about stuff I love, and RoboCop is one of them. So I had to make a video. So Teyon, really, shout out to you guys in Poland, and I believe they have some in Japan. Good luck. Very much looking forward to seeing what you guys cook up. If you're watching, you're probably not. But to those of you guys out there who are watching, you guys, I want to hear from you in the comments. What do you think about RoboCop? Should I make more RoboCop videos? I'm actually working on quite a few videos about cool robots this week, so expect a video on the other cool metal robot guy soon. But that also reminds me, I am going user-funded now. Simply put, a lot of you guys out there have asked in the past how you can support my endeavors here. So I am going user-funded. You can support me by clicking the join button on a YouTube video with YouTube memberships, or on Patreon. I offer both. Really simple, just with some little perks for having my back. I genuinely appreciate it. It's all completely optional. All my content is still going to be free and not paywall, but if you have my back, thank you. Legit, I appreciate it. But let me know what you think about RoboCop, and let me know what you think about the potential behind this game. Could it be absolutely terrible? Yes, but it could also be fun. I don't know. It's RoboCop, so fingers crossed. Hope for the best. We'll see. Man, I just love talking. So Let me know what you think. I definitely want to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, clicking the like button helps me out. You know that. It's legit all you can do. Thank you very much. But I'm Jake Baldino. Thanks for watching. You can subscribe because video games. Guys, pizza's on me.